أخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمنا بنور الفهم وافتح علينا بمعرفة العلم وسهل أخلاقنا بالحلم واجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. اللهم اجعل أعمالنا خالصة لوجهك ولا تجعل فيها حظا لغيرك. وصل اللهم على سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. How's everyone today? Good, alhamdulillah. Sorry about the delays, man. The load shedding causes a bit of nonsense. Okay, so we were busy with Nahwu, and last week we were looking at the Nāib al-fā'il. And when did you say, when do we even start thinking about the Nāib al-fā'il? When you have when you start thinking about a fa'il, when you have a fi'al, you must have a fi'al. But what kind of fi'al? Fi'alun ma'lūmun, an active form fi'al. Then you have the Nāib al-fā'il. When you start thinking about the Nāib al-fā'il, when you have a fi'al majhūl. Right? So fa'il, when there's a fi'alun ma'lūm, Nāib al-fā'il, when there's a fi'alun majhūl. Right. So a million things open here. Okay. So what was the first part of our lesson? The first thing we looked at was, we said, well, how do you look for this Nāib al-fā'il? You look for it the same way that you look for a fa'il. You look for it the same way that you look for a fa'il. But you know it cannot be the fa'il that you're looking for because it's a majhūl verb. And by definition, a majhūl verb, what is majhūl? What's jahl? We know it to mean ignorance, right? Or to not know. That's why the one verb we call the ma'lūm, the thing that is known, and the other one we call majhūl, the thing that is not unknown. Right? So what is it that's known and what is it that's unknown? The fa'il. So by definition, when you have a majhūl verb, you cannot be looking for the fa'il. Because the fact that it's majhūl, by definition, tells you that the fa'il is not known. So what will we be looking for? We will be looking for an upgraded maf'ūl bihi, if you want. We upgraded it to the position of a fa'il on two accounts. Number one, we gave it a new name, Nāib al-fā'il, instead of just being maf'ūl bihi. And number two, it gets the hal of the fa'il, which is raf. But to actually do that, we said we have to know how to identify when the verb is majhūl. Right? And I gave you two little rules, one for the present tense, one for the past tense. So what was the past tense rule? It will start with a u, right? Raf is the hal of the word. We must say with the dhamma, right? So it will start with the dhamma. And what's the other rule? What will have a kasra? The second root letter will have a kasra. And what about the present tense? It will start with a dhamma, and the second root letter will have a fatha. Right? So, and your one that you keep in the example that you keep in your mind is just fu'ila and yuf'alu. Fu'ila and yuf'alu. But now we had a whole lot of different other skills. A whole lot of other skills. And so we had a lot of other skills, and we needed to form those other skills. So how do you think, did we go through this already? No. So fa'ala became what? Fu'ila. Yaf'alu became what? Yuf'alu. Right. Fa'ala would become what? Fu'ila. Right. And yufa'ilu will become what? Yufa'alu. Right. Fa'ala will become what? Can you put a dhamma on a letter and then have a alif after it? No. Not possible. Why? Because the alif is just a pulling sound that goes with the fatha. So you can't have a dhamma and then follow it with the fatha. You can't have a dhamma and then follow it up with the alif. You can have a hamza, yes, fu'adun. But that's a hamza, it's a different letter altogether. Alif is just a pulling sound. So what do? What's the pulling sound that goes with the dhamma? Wow. So it will become fu'ila. Fu'ila. And we know the rule of this with these weak letters and the pulling sounds of all weak letters, we just chop and change them. So fa'ala will become fu'ila. Yufa'al will become what? Yufa'ilu will become what? Yufa'alu. Right? Yufa'alu. That's correct. Af'ala will become what? Uf'ila. Right. And yuf'ilu will become what? Yuf'alu. Now you might notice that the first bab, yaf'alu, becomes yuf'alu, and the fourth bab, yuf'ilu, also becomes yuf'alu. So they look exactly the same. They look exactly the same. So, yeah, let's not get into that. But really, it's not going to have much of an effect. Why? Because what's one of the... which bab are you on now? Starting the third one, right? So, what are some of the qualities or the specialities of the second bab? Causation or to intensify. Now, causation is one of the qualities of the fourth bab as well, right? And causation over there, what does it come down to? It comes down to basically that it will make the verb transitive. Maybe I shouldn't explain it, but it will make it transitive. What do I mean by it? Will make it able to receive a direct object. It can have a maf'ulun bihi. Like for example, the verb jalasa. Jalasa means what? He sat. Can jalasa have a direct object? A maf'ulun bihi. You don't sit something. You can say jalasa alal kursi, but you can't jalasa something. Doesn't make sense, right? That's because it's an intransitive verb. Can I? You can seat somebody, but that's causation, to make them sit, right? To seat them. Ajlasahu. Now, you see, if the first form is intransitive, then you won't normally use the majhul form of the verb, julisa. At least not on its own. You'd have to use it with julisa ala. But it's not commonly used. Whereas the fourth form may be used. Ajlasa, he seated him somewhere, or ujlistu hunak, I was seated over there. So why I'm saying that is because it's not often that you'll get confused between the majhul form of the fourth bab and the majhul form of the first bab. They look exactly the same. Yaf'alu becomes yuf'alu. And yuf'ilu also becomes yuf'alu. But okay, just forget the whole explanation. You won't get confused because the meaning will tell itself. Next one. Tafa'ala. If you had just followed the rules, then it would be tufa'ila. But this is not something that I couldn't write into the room. It actually becomes tufu'ila. Tufu'ila. Yes? You can say that, but only for the past tense. That the first root letter must have a dhamma, but only for the past tense. Why? Because the present tense is, so I said this one is tufu'ila. Sorry. The present tense will be what? The ma'loom is yatafa'ala yatafa'alu. The majhul will be what? Put a dhamma at the beginning and then put a kasra on the ayn. It will be, sorry, no, a fatha on the ayn, so it will be yutafa'alu. So the only thing that changes there is the dhamma at the beginning. Tafa'ala becomes yutafa'alu. Yatafa'alu becomes yutafa'alu. So can you see now how for the present tense, the fa still has a fatha? So that the rule can't apply everywhere, right? Only for the past tense. The next one. Now, if you take that rule we just made up now, right? That for the past tense, the first root letter must also have the dhamma. Then what will it be? Tufu'ila, right? Tufu'ila. Because you can't have a dhamma before alif. The pulling sound that goes with the dhamma is a wow. So it will be tufu'ila. And the present tense? Yutafa'alu. Yutafa'alu. Number 7, in fa'ala. Let's start with the dhamma. So you can have un. The first, if we give the root letter also a dhamma, then it will be what? Un fu'ila. Un fu'ila. Un fu'ila. And the present tense? Yun fa'alu. Yun fa'alu. All right. Yun fa'alu. And number 8 doesn't follow that rule again. So number 8, you have ifta'ala. What will become? But what? Uftu'ila. Okay. Because the first root letter has a sukoon, right? But now here there's a bit of a change. Because the first root letter has a sukoon on it, we give its dhamma to the letter after it. Because the first root letter has a sukoon on it, we give its dhamma to the letter after it. So it becomes uftu'ila. And then the present tense becomes, but I will also fill this in and send it to you, inshallah. Right? Sometimes I forget, so please just somebody remind me, or tell assistants to remind me, then I'll send it to them. And the present tense, yufta'alu. Right. يفتعل. And in the ninth form, you can form it, but you never use it really. Because it's almost always, I think it's, in fact, it's always, from what I know, an intransitive word. So it doesn't take a direct object. But anyways, what would it be? فعلنا. And the present tense? يفعل. أفعلنا. Yeah, but to be honest with you, you never actually use that. You don't use it. It doesn't get used yet. يفعل. And then the 10th verb. أستفعل. That should be أستفعل. And the present tense will be يستفعل. يستفعل. Okay. So yeah, the first thing I wanted to know is the skill that we require you to have is here in this exercise, we formed the majhul from those rules. We formed the majhul verbs from the rules. But can you see the first and second rules that I gave you of the dhamma at the beginning and the kasra on the second root letter for the past tense, dhamma at the beginning and fatha on the second root letter for the present tense, that applies to all of them. Can you see that? So when you're identifying, you're not forming the whole thing. When you're just identifying whether a word is ma'loom or majhul, all that you need to know are those two rules. When you're forming it, yes, there might be some more complications like in tufu'ila or tufu'ila or whichever, uftu'ila, because now we added the extra dhamma in there somewhere, or we changed the position of the dhamma somewhere. But those, if you're just identifying it, you're not forming it, you just need to know those two rules and you'll always get it right. Right? You just need to know those two rules and then you will always be able to identify it. Identify it. Right. So let's quickly just go through all of those. So فعل يفعل becomes what? فعل يفعل. فعل يفعل becomes what? فعل يفعل. فعل يفعل becomes what? You can even read it. فعل يفعل. أفعل يفعل becomes what? أفعل يفعل. تفعل يتفعل becomes what? تفعل يتفعل. تفاعل يتفاعل becomes what? تفوعل يتفاعل. انفعل ينفعل becomes what? انفعل ينفعل. افتعل يفتعل becomes افتعل يفتعل. افعل يفعل, we can actually skip that one. I prefer to skip it just so that you don't, you know in your mind, I think sticks that we don't use it. استفعل يستفعل becomes what? استفعل يستفعل. استفعل يستفعل. Right. So what remains of that is simply to now learn it. We excluded it from the scales. Usually when you learn the mazid fi scales, right? And then we learn it like this. فعل يفعل تفعيلا مفعل. So that part of the scale you learn the same, right? But then we would say مفعل فعل يفعل تفعيلا مفعل. فعل لا تفعل. So those three words over there, Mullah Khalil, scrap from the scale just to make it easier to learn. فعل يفعل تفعيلا مفعل مفعل فعل لا تفعل. So just to make it easier to learn. Why did we do that? Because it's very easy to learn how to identify the majhul form of the verb simply by knowing those two rules. Right? Simply by knowing those two rules. Right. So did we do the next thing for homework? We did that for homework. So time, 10 o'clock. We'll probably go to past. So maybe we can. Okay, let's just go through it. Do we do the whole thing for homework? Yeah. So let's look at some of them. Translate the following and indicate the Nāib al-fā'il. Okay. How did we look for it now again? Just remind me. Ili. Same way we looked at the fa'il. So, وَفُتِحَتِ السَّمَاءُ. What does that mean? Fataha means to open. Futiha means to be opened. To be opened. So what was opened here? As-sama'u. The heavens. So if you do Ili, you look on Futihat. Okay, this might have been a little bit confusing because Futihati is actually just Futihat. Futiha, Futihu. Futi, so it's a standard feminine. Why does it have a kasra? Futihati. Because of asama, just for flow. It's just to create a flow between the two words. So it would actually be Futihat as-sama'u. But because that sounds so cut up and Arabic likes to have munasaba, likes to be a flowing language, so there must be munasaba between the word before. There must be a relationship between the word before and the word after. So we just make it a kasra, futihatis sama'u. And usually when we want to create that flow, we just use a kasra. There are some times when we don't, but I'll point that out to you when we come across it, inshallah. So وَفُتِحَتِ السَّمَاءُ. So futihat is a standard feminine, there's nothing at the end. Then we look to the left and we find as-sama'u. Is it in raf? Yes, it's in raf. That will be my Nāib al-fā'il. Why am I calling it Nāib al-fā'il and not fā'il? Because the verb is a majhul form verb. That's from one perspective, from just a structural perspective. But from the meaning perspective, you'll understand that the action of fath is being done to the sky rather than the sky doing the action. You understand? Rather than the sky doing the action, Futihati samawati, what does it translate as? And the heaven was opened, or the sky was opened. It's actually, I mean, in the context of the surah, verse number 78, 19, it's وَفُتِحَتِ السَّمَاءُ فَكَانَتْ أَبْوَابًا. It's speaking about the day of Qiyamah. So, you know, it's one of those cases where you have a past tense word, but the present or the future tense meaning. But you know, we spoke about that before. When you use a past tense, then it's almost like a done deal. So this is an example of that. And the next one is similar. وَبُرِّزَتِ الْجَحِيمُ. وَبُرِّزَتِ الْجَحِيمُ. Barraza means to make something apparent, or to present something. So burriza will mean to be presented. So what will be presented? What will be made apparent? The hellfire. Al-Jahimu, the blazing fire. So Al-Jahimu will be my Nāib al-fā'il in halatul raf. And if you follow Ili, you will find that. So وَبُرِّزَتِ الْجَحِيمُ. Just for interest sake, which bab is this on? Burriza? Number 2. Right. Okay, next one. أَفَلَا يَنظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. Where's the Nāib al-fā'il of ينظرون? Where's the Nāib al-fā'il of ينظرون? Is there a Nāib al-fā'il? You can't see it. No, it starts with a ينظرون. So that's not a majhul verb. Where's the majhul verb? خُلِقَت. Right. Remember the rule, all the majhul verbs must start with a dhamma, with a u. All of them start with a u. So ينظرون is a fi'al, yes, but it's a fi'al ma'loom, not majhul. So you can't find a Nāib al-fā'il. That one will have a fa'il. And the fa'il over there will be what? ينظرون, the una. So أفلا ينظرون, do they not look إلى الإبل, to the camel, كيف, how, خُلِقَت. خُلِقَ, can you see that will be my majhul verb. Now who is the Nāib al-fā'il? Just like a fi'al ma'loom must always have a fa'il, the fi'al majhul must always have a Nāib al-fā'il. Who's the Nāib al-fā'il? So it's خُلِقَت, right? خُلِقَ, خُلِق. That's a standard feminine. If you look at the left, is anything on the left? Well, that's the last word. Then we look. What's in the standard feminine form? So the damir that's inside, which here. What's it referring to? It's referring back to the camel, the ibil, the ibil. Translation of the can you see that it's a majhul dhamma? To find خُلِقَت is here because it's a standard feminine form. Now I'm just asking a question that doesn't need to be asked, but what is that referring to? It's referring to the word ibil. And okay, and yeah, okay, you might not ask me why is it feminine, but okay, let's leave that for now. There we go. Ibil is actually a collective noun. It's a collective noun. So if you speak about a lot of camels, do they have human intellect? No, they don't have human intellect. So it's a plural of a non or inanimate object, right? So we treat it as a singular feminine. The word is not jama. The word is jama in meaning. It's a collective noun. So the whole translation will be أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. أَفَلَا. Makes the whole sentence into a question. لَا يَنْظُرُونَ means what? They do not look. So So if I translate that part, so they do not look. If I change it now into a question, it will be, so don't they, or do they not look إلى الإبل, to the camels, كيف خلقت, how they were created. Do they not look at the camels, how they were created? The next part, the next verse. وإلى السماء كيف رفعت. وإلى السماء, and to the skies. كيف, how, رفعت, how they were raised. رفع means to raise, right? So رفع is مجهول. You can see the U and the E. Let's find the Nāib al-fā'il here. Where's the Nāib al-fā'il? Again, inside. If you do Eli, you'll see there's nothing at the end, a standard feminine. There's nothing to the left, it's the last word. It must be then inside. Inside is the here. Here refers back to as-samā'u. And as-samā'u is a feminine word. What? How do you know it's feminine? What are signs of femininity? Tamar Buta, Alif Mamduda. What's Alif Mamduda and Alif Maqsura? What's the Alif Maqsura? The Ya with no dots. What's the Alif Mamduda? Alif with a little Hamza next to it. Doesn't As-Samā'u have that? Has it, right? Alif with a little Hamza. It's Alif Mamduda. It has a sign of femininity. I just want to ask you because that thing is easy to forget. Okay. Let's skip to number 10. Okay, no, let's go to number 9. There's a word before this that probably would have made it easier. ولا تقولوا لمن يقتل في سبيل الله أموات. لمن, for those who. يقتل, is that a معلوم verb or مجهول verb? مجهول, how do you know? Starts with a dhamma, second root letter as a fatha, and it's present tense. So قتل means to kill. قتل means to be killed. So for those who's the Nāib al-fā'il of this now? يقتل is a standard, the first present tense form. يقتل. So now we look at the end. Is there anything at the end? Una, ani, ina, no, nothing. Then we look, sorry. Then we look to the left. What's on the left? There's fi sabilillahi. Fi harful jar. Sabili is majroor, but you can see the sabili is also a light word, eh? So that whole thing fi sabilillahi is like connected to the harful jar, ismul majroor kasra. What comes after that? Amwatun, in which hal? Halatul raf. Can that be my Nāib fa'il? Yes, it can. Why can't it? So I had yuqtalu. I first looked at the end, there's nothing at the end. Now I look to the left. So it will never be the harful jar ism majroor. So I just skip past that whole harful jar ism majroor thing. Fi sabilillahi. And then I see what's next to that. Amwatun. Yes. Okay, not realistically. That's not right next to it. You must look through the sentences. If I were to be more if I were to be a bit more precise about it, you'd have to be able to identify, like the fi, the harful jar. We've already come across the idea that the harful jar can introduce extra information into a sentence. So you can sometimes imagine like a comma before it and a comma after it. Right? It's not a core part of the sentence. And where do I put the comma before? Where do I put the comma after? I put the comma before the harful jar, and I put the comma after the last thing that's connected to it. Like parentheses. You can put a bracket here also if you want. ولا actually ولا تقولوا لمن يقتل أموات. But because you want to specify يقتل أين؟ يقتل في سبيل الله. It's giving you extra information. So because we know that, I know that I can just skip over the harful jar and the ism majroor and whatever's connected to it. Here we have a mudafun ilayh, and then see what's over there. I could potentially have had another harful jar there. Then it would be perhaps another piece of extra information. And I skip over that one also. And whatever's connected to that. So when we say on the left, it doesn't have to be right next to it. It can be further down as well. You can't now go, maybe if there's another verb, you can stop there. Unless that verb is part of a silatul mawsul. I don't want to make the whole thing complicated. Just look on the list. Right? Yeah. For those who are killed in the path of Allah did. That's why I said, the example would have been clearer if I had put the word before that, لا تقولوا, do not say. Do not say, liman, for those who يقتل في سبيل الله, are killed in the path of Allah, do not say dead. Actually, no. No, that's wrong. That's wrong, yeah. It could work. But then you'd have to translate it as the dead were killed. No. Right. No. That's wrong. The verse is لا تقولوا ولا تقولوا لمن يقتل في سبيل الله أموات. So the word أموات is actually connected to the verb لا تقولوا. So it's لا تقولوا أموات. Do not say أموات لمن يقتل في سبيل الله. For those who passed away in the path of Allah. So here this يقتل no. Why you can't say that is, for example, here Amwatun is not the Nāib al-fā'il. That's wrong. I just rectified myself. Right? It's not that. That's what I was going to say now. The Nāib al-fā'il of yuqtalu is actually the huwa that's inside it. Right? And it goes back to the man. For those who are killed, they are killed. Yeah. What makes this confusing here is, and actually this caught me off guard now, I wasn't thinking, is that in the example, just remind me that la taqulu has to be in here. Otherwise you'll get it wrong. La taqulu amwatun liman yuqtalu fi sabilillah. Do not say dead for those people who were killed in the path of Allah. That's what it means. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is changing the emphasis. So do not say liman yuqtalu fi sabilillahi amwatun. Do not say لمن يقتل في سبيل الله أموات. This verse actually has a bit of a complicated i'rab, because that word أموات is actually a sentence, and there's something omitted as part of the sentence. So that's a جملة اسمية. جملة اسمية. لا تقولوا, do not say. What must you not say? They are dead. But where's the they? No, it's omitted. Understood. So there's supposed to be a hum asmiya, hum amwatun, that will be the khabar. That's why it's in raf. And that whole thing, hum amwatun, that whole sentence is the maf'ul bihi for la taqulu. Do not say the sentence hum amwatun. I'll write it out for you next week and show it to you when I have my laptop here where I can write on. But okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Zakariyya, sorry about that. Maybe we just knocked off again. But I just said that whoever hasn't completed those examples from the worksheet on identifying the Nāib al-fā'il, you can complete that for homework, inshallah. And not next week, because next week we're having the camp. The following week, we will check some of those before moving on to the next concept, inshallah. Right? We're in there for now. Wa jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So we'll have a bit of a break, 10-15 minutes, and then you guys will join the other class, inshallah. All right? Assalamu alaikum.